Bro, I'm sitting here like laughing maniacally as I turn on these stupid GIFs. It really is the stupidest, simplest things that bring me joy. Now I wonder if I can add sources while I'm streaming? I can, but I don't really want to like mess with it right now. I've got a few of them loaded up, so. So, because there's like I don't know, about a 5-second delay. And so when I activate one of these GIFs and then I look over at my TV and I'm like, and there it is. And it cracks me up. Which I think will be actually really cool. Let me pull up the settings here. Hotkeys. Sources. Oh, cool. All right, yeah. So yeah, once I get like a programmable keypad, I can tie these different like GIFs or images or whatever it is I want to use, video clips or something. I can tie them to the hotkeys and use them on demand instead of having to like click the little visibility button here. But still, it's nice to have the option. And I'm talking to myself. How about that? I mean, more so than usual. But with the microphone off, I'm definitely talking to myself. I discovered something with the audio. I had been using the YouTube volume control to like turn things up and down, but I didn't realize that my actual PC volume control was affecting things too. So like right now I'm turning that up and increasing the sound from the video. I wonder if that's been part of the reason why things have sounded really low when I've been watching videos. So anyways, pre-stream started late, and therefore I got here late and got ready late because I was messing with these reaction GIFs and stuff. But we are here. I spotted this article, I think it was yesterday, and thought it was kind of interesting take because I've talked about it multiple times on my channel, actually. Obviously, being a fan of Star Trek and the, I guess we'll say current because they haven't made anything else yet, but the current film series that hasn't made a movie in like 8 years. But I've talked multiple times about this, various opinions regarding the next film in the series. Like Chris Pine has come out and said he basically thinks the production is kind of cursed. Essentially, the fact that there will constantly be talk about it and then nothing happens, and then talk about it and then expectations and then nothing happens. So he actually had a really good take. I appreciate what he had to say about it. And then at some point before, oh yes, the screen rant is stupid, but they had talked about like something regarding Star Trek 5, and they were trying to go into how that could already be a failure or something like that. I don't know, it was really weird. Anyways, so to talk about Star Trek 4, this was actually a pretty good take, I thought. That came out a couple days ago from Mark Donaldson at my arch nemesis here, Screen Rant. I got multiple videos about Screen Rant. I hate their opinions 90% of the time. But this time, they said Star Trek 4's long wait has one advantage to make J.J. Abrams' Enterprise even more interesting. And I was actually kind of surprised by this take because I had not considered it, strangely enough. I will think about these things, and typically I'll form opinions on stuff or reasonings about things that maybe people haven't considered. In this case, it seems Screen Rant beat me to it. So, the long wait for Star Trek 4 allows the movie to explore a more mature Kirk and the mental state of the Enterprise crew at a pivotal point in their lives and careers. With the cast being older, Star Trek 4 has the chance to delve into new aspects of the characters, such as Chris Pine's Kirk transitioning into a more middle-aged and mature leader. Star Trek 4 should tell a brand new story about old age, mortality, and past regrets, avoiding repetition of previous films. It could potentially focus on Kirk's role as a father and his own mortality, creating a dynamic of confronting one's own mortality and legacy. Now, they say avoiding repetition of previous films, but that right there, that exact line is basically describing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Because that's what Kirk, between Star Trek II and Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, that's basically what Kirk is dealing with. He's dealing with who he is as a father and how that role has played out for him. And, of course, thinking about his legacy and mortality. You know, when his son died in Star Trek III, it was kind of like, well, what's left, you know? He has no family. He has no son. His son's gone now. You know, all these different things. So, do I think they could do that story again? Yeah, for sure. Just very differently. I don't know about the father part, honestly. The interesting thing is I feel like Carol Marcus could actually be the love interest again, or a former love interest. I mean, obviously Kirk has had those, but we already established Carol Marcus in Star Trek Into Darkness, and she was done very well, and she was played very well by what's her name? What was her name? I wish, honestly, yeah, I know not everybody likes Wikipedia as a source, but sometimes it is the best casual source for things. I don't know what. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Alice Eve. That was her name. Alice Eve. Quite hot. But she played Carol Marcus in Star Trek Into Darkness. Oh, well, I didn't know you were here that long because it suddenly popped up and said 3 people. So, Alice Sophia Eve. She had definitely been in some other stuff. Let me see. Oh, Men in Black 3. That was where I had seen her before. I don't know about anything else she's been in. But I had seen her in Men in Black 3 before Into Darkness. Replicas. Ooh. That's a movie I still need to see. I didn't know she was in that. Yeah, I don't care about that. Apparently she was in Black Mirror. Anyways. So this concept of... Correct. This concept of possibly doing the... I don't know how long you've been here, because the YouTube viewership thing isn't always accurate. But this is what I was talking about right here. Screen Rant is almost always wrong and stupid. But like 10% of the time, they're not wrong and stupid. Oh, holy crap. The chat color matches me. That is awesome. Everybody's names are going to be purple. And that's random. Really cool. Anyways, so in this case, they actually thought of something I hadn't actually considered yet when it came to Star Trek 4. Because Star Trek Beyond, I feel like started to do this. It wasn't like they were old. They had just matured into their roles. And they had been out in space a long time. Maybe they needed a refresher, a break, but you kind of saw there was a bit of fatigue on them. And so Star Trek 4, though, Screen Rant is basically saying that the lengthy delay, if Star Trek 4 were to occur, as we hope, that it could actually play into the hands of the story if it was done right, because the cast is going to be older, and you obviously you can do whatever you want. It's a fictional timeline, but typically Star Trek films, the time elapsed in the real world kind of is matched by the time elapsed in universe. So usually, like, Star Trek First Contact was like 2 years after Star Trek Generations. Usually it's been about approximately 2 years between the two films, right? They kind of keep it that way, I think, for continuity, like real world continuity. You feel like, oh yeah, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years has passed, and it feels like 2, 3, 4 or 5 years has passed in the story as well. But in this case, yeah, they're saying there could be an advantage for the long wait, if this film does get produced. But they could essentially explore that these characters are a little bit more middle-aged, and then Kirk, of course, could be like that more mature leader, and they could explore those aspects. And what I was talking about is how in this article, this paragraph here, says Star Trek 4 should tell a brand new story about old age, mortality, and past regrets, avoiding repetition of previous films. It could potentially focus on Kirk's role as a father and his own mortality, creating a dynamic of confronting one's own mortality and legacy. Now, that sounds great. I'm actually totally on board for that, but avoiding repetition of previous films, and then they basically describe Star Trek 2 and 3. Because that's basically what they are, you know, like the entirety of Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, and then it rolls into Star Trek 3 as well, of course, with the death of his son, whom I don't remember his name. But anyways, rolling into Star Trek 4 with the death of his son, that's what those stories are basically, you know, confronting is, hey, this character's older now. He has no family. His only family that he has discovered, his son, is now dead. Basically right after he's, you know, started to learn who he is. David Marcus. Right. And so the interesting thing is, we kind of got a taste of this in Star Trek Into Darkness with the introduction of Carol Marcus. And even at the end of that, they basically make some references to family and that she could be sticking around or whatever. Of course, in Star Trek Beyond, we don't see her, and we don't know anything about that relationship at this point. Did they have a relationship for a while and then it dropped off? Are they still in a relationship or something, and she's like doing her thing somewhere else on another ship, somewhere else in Starfleet? They don't really touch on it much. They kind of leave it up in the air. Very Star Trek-like, you know, we don't have a whole lot of serialized stories. Anyways, we already have Carol Marcus. We already have the dynamic between them introduced. We could potentially go forward, and yeah, Star Trek Into Darkness already did kind of tell a very similar story to Wrath of Khan in some ways. It also differentiated itself very well in others. But if we're doing this thing where, yes, it's a parallel universe, things are going to be different, they're going to be told in new ways, and it's going to kind of give us the freedom to, you know, creative freedom to do what we want. But we're also going to, in a lot of ways, mirror the Prime universe. Like, certain events seem intrinsically tied to certain characters. So obviously we got to see the meeting of Carol Marcus, and then in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, we see that, oh yeah, they had a kid together. So it's possible that you could explore that in Star Trek 4. You know, history repeats itself. So you could do a scenario where he does have a son, but I feel like you just present it differently. That son ended up somewhere else. Maybe he actually knew his son and was involved in his life versus not being involved in his life, like in Star Trek 2. And of course, it's a different length of time as well. In Star Trek 2, his son was a grown adult who was a researcher. Whereas in this, we're talking the kid could be like a teenager or something. You know, maybe somehow he's aboard the Enterprise, or Kirk is visiting him, or whatever it is. There's ways to get them involved together, but you're talking about a younger version of David Marcus. So it just like the trend in the Abrams verse is to mirror the Prime universe, but at different stages of history, and carry them out differently. I think that would be very doable, and it would be a very good story. So they're actually getting this correct. And of course, that would carry over to all the other characters in it as well. They'd all have aged and be dealing with different, stages of life. So anyways, so the long wait for Star Trek IV could eventually work in the movie's favor, as it would provide a fresh new take on J.J. Abrams' USS Enterprise and its crew. The long-delayed fourth movie in the Star Trek Kelvin timeline series would be even further impacted by the ongoing WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, which have brought Hollywood production to a standstill. Prior to industrial action being called, the slated 2023 release date for Star Trek IV had been removed without a new one being provided. The behind-the-scenes story of Star Trek IV appears to have been played with various setbacks, creative differences, preventing the movie from reaching theaters in good time. It has been over 7 years since Star Trek Beyond, and the wait for a sequel gets longer and longer with each passing year. While the wait has been incredibly frustrating for fans, it could pay off in story terms, especially if Star Trek IV acknowledges the time that's passed since Star Trek Beyond's 2016 release. Star Trek the Motion Picture, for example, reflected the decade that had passed for the cast since Star Trek the original series was canceled. It's possible Star Trek IV could do something similar. Not only that, but again, dealing with, okay, these are different stages of an alternate timeline, but certain events are certain flows of history are still connected to these people. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, being the send-off film for the original cast, again dealt with, what is our legacy? What are we going to do with ourselves? We're all older now, that kind of thing. Now, obviously, that cast was considerably older than this cast would be, even if we waited another 2-3 years. But you could do something similar. You could kind of do a blending of those concepts. This cast, this crew, I mean, even if we get a Star Trek IV, it's almost surely going to be the last of this iteration, right? Like, maybe we'll see something continue on in that universe with an Enterprise B or a C or a D or whatever it is, however you want to proceed. Maybe not even go with the new Enterprise, go elsewhere in that universe. But Star Trek IV would almost certainly be the end for this Enterprise crew, right? I can't see them, unless it becomes some kind of random mammoth hit, I can't see them really doing a whole lot more beyond that, considering what it might take to actually get this one done. So, do it as just that. Do it as a send-off film, like Undiscovered Country was. And then these characters can make cameos in future stories or movies or series or whatever. But do this as a way to give them a proper ending and cut their ties with it, so that whatever comes next is just kind of they're free to do, right? They're not tied to trying to be in this series. But if you take the concepts we were just talking about, Kirk being a father, the crew being older, having things going on with their lives, and they've got this one big last adventure that they've got to deal with, I think that it would work out really good, especially considering everything from this series has been really good in my opinion. But yes, I agree with this. Star Trek IV can't repeat Wrath of Khan's story of old age of death. First of all, we've already did Khan, right? And the way that he plays into Kirk's world. And I think, again, you just do it differently. You tell the old age and mortality and legacy thing, but you tell it through the lens of, maybe in this universe, Kirk is a good dad. Wouldn't that be awesome, right? Like, obviously, Kirk in the Prime universe didn't even know he had a son, so he had no opportunity to be a good dad, unless he had obviously stayed with the mother. But in this universe, you could tell that story completely different, because in this universe, his father died, right? So maybe he has like a bigger impetus to be a father himself, and to be around for his son. And so that could be really cool. If you tell a story where Kirk, he and maybe Carol Marcus, they have a son together, right? They don't have to still be together. Maybe they're in different points or whatever, but just make it less bitter and less bittersweet than what we got in The Search for Spock. But tell that story, you know, and maybe that could be the whole like way that he is stepping away from the Enterprise. If this is the potential last film, the last story for this specific crew, then do something really neat like that, where Kirk as a father, this is where he learns he needs to retire. This is where he learns that his legacy, his motivations, lie outside of Starfleet. The reason why in Star Trek, well, the Prime Universe, we see the opposite is because he didn't have his son in his life. He didn't know that he had something else to work for and to nurture and build up in his place. And then when he found that, it was like immediately taken from him. Kirk's character in the Prime Universe is a lot deeper a character than is given credit, right? Honestly, I hadn't even considered all this until just now. So do like I said, the mirror, but you know, where it's flipped. In this case, in this universe, Kirk's dad died. He lives a whole different life, proving himself and trying to become somebody with a legacy and living up to his father's legacy, right? And then eventually he has a son. And now he realizes that that's going to be his legacy going forward. And now there comes a time where he's got to stop, and he's got to make sure that happens. And that could be the final adventure, or at least a key component of it. So tell the same story, but tell it the opposite way. I think it would be really cool. Right, kind of, basically what this says. The greatest Star Trek story about getting older and facing up to death is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which was remade as Star Trek Into Darkness. This is correct and incorrect, because yes, the concept of Khan and the way he made them face different, you know, demons, that is taken from it. You know, and it did lose its thematic core because it was made into something else. It wasn't remade as Wrath of Khan. It was a new idea. Because obviously, the Wrath of Khan, they had a history. They had no history in Into Darkness. So this means that Star Trek 4 would need to tell a brand new story about old age and confronting one's mortality and past regrets. That's what we all talked about already, so there's that. I don't like this version. One of the previous versions of Star Trek 4 teamed up Kirk with his dead father, Lieutenant George Kirk, Chris Hemsworth. Something similar would work well, blah, blah, blah. No. I don't want to see... I never liked that idea. I feel like Chris Hemsworth's role in Star Trek was awesome, and George Kirk was awesome, and let him rest in peace. we don't need to do some kind of some sort of time travel stuff and stretch to make that happen. I think it's good as it is. I think it just wouldn't be as appealing of a concept to me. Like, oh great, George Kirk and Jim Kirk are gonna be having an adventure together. I'd rather see Jim Kirk and David Kirk / Marcus have an adventure together, and then that be what pulls Kirk into retirement and stepping away from the bridge of the Enterprise. Because that's something that Prime Kirk could just never do. Agent Tomcat agrees with everything I've said, correct? If he's even here. What the? Wow. Were you even listening? Since I think you're the only other person here, I'm interested in your feedback on this. It won't convince me I'm wrong in any way. Yes? Yes. All that being said, Star Trek 4 would have to happen. So we'll just have to see what happens there. Because, as Chris Pine said, oh my god. Oh my god. He's so funny. He's so funny. But yeah, as Chris Pine said, he kind of thinks that Star Trek production is cursed. And I kind of agree from what we've seen. But kudos to this guy, Mark Donaldson of Screen Rant. What the hell? James and David go on adventures, sometimes accompanied by wacky Uncle Sam. I don't know about all that. Uncle Sam Kirk. There was somebody here earlier, and then they left. But they stuck around for like 5 minutes. So, he wants you to join Starfleet. Wait, isn't that his uncle's name? Or, well, Jim Kirk's brother? It is Sam, right? Or wait, did I get that wrong? Yeah, it's Sam. Goes by Sam, because, you know, he probably doesn't want to use his dad's name, because that'd be a little strange. Samantha Sam Kirk, born in 1981 in Chicago. Wait, what? Huh? Who the hell? Whoa, they even got his mustache in Strange New Worlds. He's not quite as blonde, but... yeah. I don't know if you would incorporate him necessarily, but... like I said, I think that there's some pretty cool things you could do with that, and for once, Screen Rant gets it right, because they basically don't 90% of the time. Like, they have the weirdest takes on movies. I guarantee I could just pull up Screen Rant right now. And I just, well, first of all, it's a terrible website, like, format. Alright, so... no, I don't want to give you money. Right. Yeah, I mean, they just... Okay, I'm not seeing like any opinions here, but yeah, they basically get it right like 1 out of 10. Because I think I've done like 4 or 5 videos about Screen Rant, like it's not just Screen Rant, it's Screen Rant and We Got This Covered or something like that. And I swear, I'm like, what? I swear they go to like an AI generator and be like, make really stupid articles about movies, and just let it go. But they do the same thing. They have really weird opinions about stuff that make no sense sometimes. And Traveler's here. We were discussing Star Trek 4 and the fact that Screen Rant actually got it right. Got it right about this website is going to cause my stream to crash, I swear. Jesus. Anyways. They also have the laggiest, overtaxing websites. But they got it right. They were talking about how, just to summarize quickly, Star Trek 4, because of the length of time that's passed between Star Trek Beyond and whenever Star Trek 4 happens, if it ever did, the actors, the cast, and of course the characters will have aged and be at very different stages of their life. They'd be older, more mature, they'd have things going on. And we were basically just discussing how, or I was monologuing and then telling Tomcat to agree with me, how what they should do is essentially a mirror version of how Kirk's life played out in the original films, with Star Trek The Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock being these like dealing with age and legacy, mortality, type stories. And in those, he discovers that he's a father. He never knew that, and so it guided his life was guided in a completely different way. His decisions were, because he didn't have this knowledge. And when he finally did, it was taken away from him, and now once again he had no family, he had no legacy except for the things that he accomplishes in Starfleet. So he just keeps doing that until he can't. So in this universe, perhaps you could just do the same thing, same but different. Essentially have it so this version of Kirk, because of his relationship with Carol Marcus, has a son, David, and in this case, when that son is like a teenager or whatever, he actually becomes involved in his life. And because of that, he decides that his future, his legacy is about raising his son and building him up. So Star Trek 4 would include his son and a storyline regarding that. Meanwhile, the crew of the Enterprise, who are of course getting older and about to all kind of move on to different things, they could potentially be on essentially their last voyage as a family, as a crew together, before they kind of move off in different directions. And not only that, but these movies, the Abrams films, you'll notice they always start with an episode and then move into the movie. They all 3 of them have done that. They've all started with an episode that establishes, oh, this universe was happening before the events of the movie. Because like that episode may be completely unrelated to the film itself. Like obviously in the first one, the episode was the Kelvin. So that was a little different because obviously that was a major impact on the universe. But in Into Darkness and Beyond, the opening episode was of little impact to the actual plot of the film, but it established that they were on like serial adventures. And now here you are. So you could really do the same thing with the 4th film. You open it up with an episode that establishes what they've been doing. Sam, but David, what the? Oh my God. Wow. This guy. Anyways, I am talking some cool stuff, and Tomcat over here. But anyways, you would have a cool little episode at the beginning establishing, oh look, the Enterprise A, and this is what it's been doing, and it's a little bit older, because we saw the first Enterprise fresh out the gate, and then along its whole adventure, and including a weird refit for Star Trek Beyond that I do not like at all. I mean, the ship is still okay, but I feel like the changes they made to it were not for the better. It went from looking kind of beefy, sleek 60s or 50s style sci-fi retro theme, or whatever you want to call it. And it had that same kind of aesthetic, but it suddenly looked anemic. It suddenly looked like it went vegan or something. I'll find a... Star Trek. Basically, it was like the Enterprise went vegan. Of course, it's going to pull up the Enterprise A when I search that. Yeah, I felt like the original version was beautiful. Absolutely perfect redo of the ship. But then it had this weird refit in Star Trek Beyond. But anyways, beyond that... Oh, here. Is this it? Oh, no. It was a fixed thing. I don't know. Anyways... But then you got the Enterprise A shown at the end of the film, so we would get to see a movie with the Enterprise A. That would be cool. But it could be a little older now. It could be, I mean, you're talking potentially 10 years plus at that point. So the ship would be a little bit older, the crew would be a little bit older, kind of like in Star Trek Undiscovered Country. We were saying that already, that this would be the last hurrah voyage for this crew, but you do it in a way where they're going off to do good things, not just sad old retirement. But Kirk is gonna retire resting on his laurels and go raise his son, and then you could do whatever other stories with Spock and Scotty and Uhura and all that, and Bones. You could do some cool stuff with them. Perhaps Bones is going to move on to be captain of a medical research vessel. That's something I've always been a huge fan of, is if you took Carl Urban's Dr. McCoy and you gave him a series, an actual series, where he is the captain of a Starfleet medical research ship. So it would still be out there exploring strange new worlds, but with a very specific focus on obviously doing emergency medical missions to starships, to colonies, to whatever it is, Federation planets and stuff, right? But then it could also be going and trying to discover new medicines, new medical technologies, new ways to just treat disease and things like that. I think that would be one of the coolest ideas for a Star Trek series, especially if you were going to continue something in the Kelvinverse. I feel like at this point with the Kelvinverse, the Enterprise is meant for the big screen, right? This is not an Enterprise or crew meant for the small screen. So what you do is you do a nice send-off film for that crew, and then you transition to, okay, well, how, if we wanted to, how are we going to spin this off to a series? Well, you do Dr. McCoy as captain of a medical research vessel. I think it'd be really awesome. Especially this Carl Urban's version of Dr. McCoy is so perfect. So, anyways, there's all kinds of things that could be really cool in this future for Star Trek in this timeline. I do get worried that we won't actually ever get to see any of it. I mean, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is absolutely fantastic. Really great series. And I hope that it continues on for many seasons. Well, obviously that's limited by, history. But I like the Kelvin universe. And I think that it would be a shame to kind of like just leave it behind, especially if we couldn't get past 3 films. It would be a great 3 films, but I just feel like it deserves more. It was so well put together for the big screen, and I feel like it should get one more chance at doing that again. Especially if you could get Abrams back to direct it. Abrams has this tendency to start series and then not finish them. The exception being Star Wars. He started with the Force Awakens, and then he stepped away for the other guy to do The Last Jedi. And then originally, I think that there was going to be a different director for the 3rd film as well. I think that was the plan. Was it was going to be Abrams, it was going to be Ryan, and then there was going to be somebody else. I can't remember, but I feel like with whether it was fully deserved or not, the backlash for The Last Jedi, it was kind of like Abrams was like, I kind of got to get back in there and finish this thing off. And I think he did great. I loved The Rise of Skywalker. But he has this tendency to kind of come in and revitalize a franchise or re-kickstart it or whatever, and then kind of step away and hand the reins to somebody else. Obviously, the first example was Mission Impossible 3. He came in, kind of gave it a whole new life, a new style, and then, well, he was done. Like, he was still a producer, he was still involved, but it moved on with, Ghost Protocol. I can't remember what the guy's name that directed that, but he was like the director of The Incredibles or something, and he did a great job. Then the same thing with Star Trek. He came in, he did the first 2 movies, did a fantastic job on those, and then handed it off to what was his name? He was a Fast and Furious, Justin Lin? I think it was Justin Lin. He handed it off to Justin Lin. Well, of course you do, because I am correct. Right? Not wow. The lol. Not James Wan. It was Justin Lin. James Wan is a horror director. I'm pretty sure. I think it was Justin Lin. Yeah, it was directed by Justin Lin. James Wan. Yeah, he did Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Oh, he directed from the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift to Fast and Furious 6 and Fast 9, which I actually liked that one. And then, of course, Star Trek Beyond as well. Yeah, he did Tokyo Drift through 6. Then he also came back and did F9. And then, of course, in between that, he did Star Trek Beyond. Now, James Wan. Yeah, he did a good job, but yeah, James Wan is definitely horror, because he did like Saw, and he's also done The Conjuring, and so this is why I think you said James Wan, because both of them directed in Fast and Furious. So, because James Wan directed Furious 7, which is actually really good. But yeah, I think that going forward, you do that send-off movie, and I just feel like it would be a shame to not, at the very least, get a 4th film. Because I just feel like the Abrams verse, the Kelvin verse, and all that it's just such a good, well put together concept. What? I thought you were trying to think of it. No. So I was trying to think of who Abrams handed off Star Trek to. Because I was saying Abrams has this tendency to, like, start a series and then step away from it and let other people finish it. Kind of like how Tom Cruise, in 99% of cases, he doesn't do sequels. Outside of Mission Impossible, obviously, that's like his series. Top Gun Maverick was the first movie he's done that's actually a sequel. So Abrams kind of has a tendency like that. He jumped into Mission Impossible, he directed a movie, did a really great job, and then was like, all right, cool, I'm going to now be a producer and hand off directing to somebody else. With Star Trek, he came in, he did the first 2 movies, and then Star Wars called. So he did the first 2 movies, and then he said, okay, I'm going to be a producer. He handed off to Justin Lin. And then he goes over to Star Wars, and he does The Force Awakens, and then hands off to Ryan. And then I think, like I said, I recall that there was supposed to be a third director for the third one. It was supposed to be a different one. And after The Last Jedi received, whether it was deserved or not, received its backlash, it was like Abrams was like, okay, I think I gotta go do the third film, right? So it was like the first time he's ever actually finished a series that he started. But I think it would actually be cool if he just came back and directed a 4th film. Because, the funny thing is, he's the one that came out and said, oh yeah, Star Trek 4 is happening. Before they had a script, before they had really gotten everybody back on board or anything like that. And I'm like, well, I guess he can do that as a producer and being the one that essentially has the say-so over this film franchise. Because you gotta remember, this Star Trek is still, the Star Trek films, I think they're still ran by Bad Robot. And Abrams is the one who comes out and says, yeah, we're doing this, So I think it would be cool if he just came back and directed it, but that's more of like a flight of fancy type thing. More than likely, he'd probably pick somebody else and have them do it. But I just don't want to see it abandoned. I think, obviously, Strange New Worlds is absolutely amazing, but this was like some of the best Star Trek that's ever been made was these 3 films. And I just feel like they deserve to get some more, another movie. And then if it was successful, spin it off and do a Dr. McCoy medical research ship where he's the captain of it. I think that would be a great series to do. The Enterprise A from Beyond. Actually a really, really cool design, I think. No, not the Kirks. Oh my god. Not the Kirks. I need an eye rolling thing here. Hang on, let me see if I got something. I figured out. I'm sitting here like, oh, you know what? I could do sources. Oh, I'm gonna do that. Let me see if I can do it on the fly. Not the Kirks and the... Oh my god. See if I can do this on the fly. Make it work. So loop, browse, and... This is happening live, I think, so... Yep, there we go. Every time you say the Kirks. What? Organian? Oh, wait, what did you say? Showdown at the Organian Corral? What the hell? Yeah, you'd watch it. You came up with that crap. I'd watch it. Well, Matt, considering his Star Wars is the reason why I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm actually kind of torn on that, because even though I'm a bigger Star Trek fan, and for me to have his Star Wars series make me a Star Wars fan, I have to kind of go, I don't know. I think he did pretty damn good with that. Really, the only like sour spot in the Star Wars sequels to me was when Rian Johnson did The Last Jedi, but even that I loved it. Like, I absolutely love the sequel series, so I guess I'm just not the right source on it. Yeah, well, that sounds episode-y, like silly TOS 60s stuff. So oh yeah, just say stuff and then burb. Oh, that's a nice view. Now I'm just looking at Enterprise pictures. Yeah, I didn't like what they did. The biggest thing with Star Trek Beyond is I did not like the refit of the Enterprise. I'm not talking about the Enterprise A. This is the Enterprise A, and this is beautiful. In fact, I think I'm gonna save that. Oh, it already exists. I already own this picture? What the heck? Apparently I already have this computer on my, or this picture in my computer. I'm like, I'm gonna save it, and then it goes, that already exists. But anyways, the refit version of the Enterprise for Star Trek Beyond, I feel like it looks so anemic. Well, Tomcat, we already got a musical, so I'm pretty sure that counts, right? Yeah, this here. Usually when you search this, you can find like where they compare it. Weird. Oh wait, here it is. Okay. So here's the one from 2009 and Into Darkness. Or well, what the hell? This is not correct. I've seen this before. This is not correct. Because for some reason they list this refit being... Unless it was at the end. Maybe that's what they mean. He was invading Earth, so I ran him over. He oddly looked a bit like a possum. But yeah, so they list this as Star Trek Into Darkness. I think what they mean here is at the end of Star Trek Into Darkness. But this is the original Church Prize that we got in Star Trek 2009 and in Into Darkness. And it was great. First of all, it was kind of beefed up. It had a very slim, slim line, but tough look to it. Like it had the flares, like the hood, headlight hood thing here going on, the fender flares and stuff, to kind of give this that like retro sci-fi look. It was really cool. And then in Into Darkness, they do this. And I think they were attempting to make a little more like the original series Enterprise, but the problem is when you go from this design to this design, this looks anemic in comparison. It looks like I said, it looks like the Enterprise became vegan. So the nacelles are a little too small, they're a little too set back. This became way too dainty, which I know was partly to set up the whatever they were called, the drone ships, to like plow through it and detach the saucer. But still, I'm kind of glad it got destroyed at the beginning, because I didn't want to see this for the rest of the movie. And then This is supposed to be the Enterprise A. I don't think that's very accurate to what we see on the screen. Because I like the Enterprise A design. Not as much as the first, but it's going to be redesigned. So I think this is pretty nice, actually. And it doesn't look vegan. But anyways, we managed to talk about Star Trek for an hour. Meanwhile, scientists believe a wormhole may have appeared over California UFO hotspot. It unfortunately didn't take California away. Oh God, scientists on the History Channel. So I'm pretty sure this is probably like a aliens thing. But yeah. Friday, July 13th, 2021. It's a foggy night, and a team of scientists from the research group UAPX, oh my God, is on a week-long expedition near Catalina Island off the coast of California, History Channel host Tony Harris explained. Then shortly before 4 a.m., one of their motion detector cameras in night vision mode captures this. In the upper right-hand corner of the frame, a black hole suddenly appears in the sky. But take a closer look. Do you see that? A cluster of small dots begins to materialize inside, and researchers don't think they are mere stars. All right, let's chance copyright here.
The launch of the brand new James Webb Telescope is a giant step forward as we try to determine if we're not alone in the universe. But it's not just big government organizations like NASA that are scanning the skies. Our next video is from a small team of researchers who have banded together to try and answer that question.
So hopefully the stream doesn't get messed up.
Friday, July 16th, 2021. It's a foggy night, and a team of scientists from the research group UAPX is on a week-long expedition near Catalina Island off the coast of California. Then, shortly before 4 a.m., one of their motion detector cameras in night vision mode captures this. In the upper right-hand corner of the frame, a black hole suddenly appears in the sky.
Okay.
But take a closer look. Do you see that? A cluster of small dots begins to materialize inside, and researchers don't think they're mere stars. Physicist Dr. Matthew Shadagis is one of the researchers with the project.
This is very strange because this
I think I'm going to slow down this.
Does match with one of our most anomalous, highest energy events that we recorded in our radiation sensor.
Because UFO cases have
So where's the video? Why is it just a static image? Show me the video.
Sensor. In normal circumstances, the average reading is about 1 to 2 mega electron volts, but at the time of the anomaly, it jumped to 43. According to writer MJ Banias, we shouldn't be surprised that something mysterious appears to be happening over Catalina Island.
Catalina Island is home to a very long history of strange and anomalous phenomena.
I'm going to pause it, though, and make sure I stay good, because I don't want the stream going down. Yeah. I don't know about any of that. Catalina is also where in 2004 one of the most important UFO sightings in history occurred. Oh yeah, so as the story goes, on board the USS Princeton on their radar, they encountered some sort of anomalous object between Catalina Island and several other islands in the channel. They approached what looked like to be a 40-foot long shaped tic-tac hovering, making erratic maneuvers just above the surface of the water. Then the pilots played chase with this object back and forth for several minutes before being ordered to return back to their aircraft carrier. There's a lot of people who believe that UFOs open up wormholes or portals between their world and travel through dimensions. This idea that we can open up a gateway between place X and place Y and move between them. The Catalina Islands would be a sort of entry point for UFOs use. I swear to God, I hate that I'm somebody who, quote, believes in aliens. Like, to me, it's just mathematically impossible that they don't exist. But I swear when I read some of these stories or these research groups, the way that they present themselves, they sound like real life fan fiction of aliens. Swear to me. That's what really bothers me, and I feel like it like makes everything that is possibly realistic less credible. It's really annoying. Like, don't sound like a bunch of nerds at a convention. And see, I've always respected Michio Kaku. He wrote some really good quantum physics stuff, and I like him. But I feel like he's older, and he's further along in his career, and so he's become kind of like, not desperate. I don't want to say he's desperate, but like he's seeking acceptance in a different group. He's seeking a way to remain relevant. Now, unlike Bill Nye or the other guy, I can't remember his name. He is in fact a theoretical physics professor, and he's a published, author with, he's actually somebody. Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's who I'm thinking of. He's not basically like a PE teacher who hosted a show in the 90s that was pretty cool, and now he's suddenly an authority on stuff. Yeah, Bill Nye, and I really don't like deGrasse Tyson. Because Bill Nye, like, I can look at him and be like, this guy's just kind of he's just kind of an asshole, right? Tyson doesn't come off the same way that Bill Nye does. He just comes off really, like, he speaks and presents himself really superior to you, but then he says stuff that is just absolutely stupid and is meant to, like, talk you in a circle that sounds complex, but it's really not. Definitely Mike Tyson over Neil deGrasse Tyson. Nile the Greased Tyrone. Oh, Jesus. I gotta be careful what I read on air. Jesus Christ. Okay. But Michio Kaku, like I said, he's actually a very smart guy. He's an actual theoretical physics professor. He's written some really good books that I've read, and I've always respected him. But I can also see, it feels like to me he's at like this stage in his career where he wants relevancy, and he has found a group or a cause that grants him like an authoritative position. That's funny. Tyrone was actually spell checker because I was trying to copy somebody else's joke. Okay. But yeah, I feel like he's at this point where, like, oh, cool, the alien people, the History Channel alien people, they accept me and they want me to be like an authoritative voice for their shows and stuff like that, and it gives him relevancy, essentially. And so, yeah, I respect him, but I think he's silly here. This is obviously not anything like Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse, but that's just kind of how I see this. Unfortunately, it lends a credible voice to a lot of people who are, or what would you say, Alien Con? Right. The researchers were actually a bunch of Alien Con attendees who got mail-in doctorates. That's a lot of these people. I actually have not read any of these articles. I just kind of saw. I was like, oh, they're cool, and they look cool, and I will put them up to react, so that as I'm reading it, like, maybe I'm surprised by stuff. Scientists see reality-bending Alice rings for the first time. I actually don't know what they are talking about here, and that's kind of weird to me. In a discovery akin to a sci-fi novel, scientists have observed the formation of reality-bending structures known as Alice rings in supercold gas. These peculiar circular formations, named after Lewis Carroll's iconic Alice of Wonderland fame, have given physicists an unprecedented opportunity to study one-sided magnetism. An Alice ring is a monopole, a magnetized quantum structure with only one polarized field that becomes inverted when looking through the middle. According to Science Alert, the Alice ring's observation resulted from a collaborative effort between researchers from the United States and Finland. This team is known for their work with distortions within quantum fields called topological monopoles. Monopoles, the isolated counterparts of magnetic poles on a traditional magnet, are as elusive as they are intriguing. Unlike slicing a magnet in half, where the north and south poles remain intact, monopoles are hypothetical entities that theoretically emerge from the complex interplay of quantum forces and particles. While one variation of monopoles takes the form of elementary particles, there are other contexts in which they can manifest, creating Alice rings. The dynamics of quantum fields can give rise to a distinct form of one-sided magnetism, generating swirling patterns that create transient anomalies, only to vanish shortly afterward. Dr. Mikko Motonen, a physicist from Aalto University in Finland and a member of the monopole collaboration, is well versed in quantum fabrics intricacies, including whirlpools, strings, and tangles. That stuff always fascinates me. And no, I don't pretend to understand, obviously, the mathematics and all that kind of stuff. But I try to read enough and watch enough videos about these things to have at least a way to visualize these concepts and what they're doing. But like the idea of a plane of existence, like of our reality, of our universe, on such a small scale that normal, traditional rules of everything just don't really apply, and you have to try and find out like how these things would work at this scale. Is really fascinating because it's almost like an entire universe in itself, and as complex as the universe we observe up here at our size, at our scale. I often see a lot of this stuff as like mirroring the same mechanics we see on larger scales. And is it possible we're looking at a whole other little universe down there? It's like I had posted put a post on my YouTube before where I showed an image where it shows the neural network of your mind, you know, between brain cells and all that, and the universe on a large scale. And I'm just like, do you see the similarities here? You know, our universe, it's almost like it operates the way a brain does, you know, with photons and gravity and all these things acting as ways to connect, you know, the cells, which would, you know, be like galaxies and stuff. But in 2015, Dr. Motonen and his team achieved a groundbreaking feat by proving the existence of topological monopoles, or Alice rings, and observing one in isolation for the first time. They achieved this by studying an ultra-cold state of rubidium atoms known as Bose-Einstein condensate. The unexplained phenomena of looking through an Alice ring and seeing the polarity reversed is similar to viewing an alternate reality. You know what? I feel like somebody has to have done a video. I said Alice Rings, not Alice Springs. What the heck? Food? What is going on here? Apparently YouTube doesn't know what these are. Alright, we'll go to this one. Although YouTube search is just garbage in general, so.
In a super cold gas, strange loops in the fabric of reality have finally been seen to occur, giving physicists the chance to investigate the behaviors of a pretty unusual type of one-sided magnetism, the circular formations, dubbed Alice rings after the famous Alice from Wonderland.
I feel like I said all this.
Discovered by a team of academics from the US and Finland who have already made several breakthroughs in the study of topological monopoles, distortions in quantum fields. Monopoles actually sound like something Alice might have encountered on her search for the White Rabbit.
Come on, YouTube, I want this explained. Wow, okay. It's actually kind of annoying. Like, come on, YouTube. This is the you're the place where I turn for all my information. I would think that one of these science channels would have talked about this. But apparently not. Oh well. Mildly greased Tyrone. Oh, swell in swell. Is this the one? As usual, we're constantly discovering things in places that we think we already know. And of course we don't, because we barely scratch the surface. And yet somehow scientists are perplexed by these things. I find this odd. Because honestly, I don't find... Half the time when I discover something new about space or astrophysics, cosmology, quantum physics, whatever it is, right? When I see some new discovery or information come up, I'm not really perplexed by it. I'm not shocked by it. I'm not surprised by it in any kind of way. I'm just like, oh, that's kind of awesome, or whatever. How do we prove that? Does that conflict with observed reality? Whatever it is. I don't really get perplexed by it. I feel it's weird that scientists get perplexed by these things they find. Like, what? We found a new thing in a place that we've never... Like, I don't know. Anyways, like this right here. Scientists are perplexed by the recent discovery on the moon's surface. So apparently, and I'm going to see if there's a source. This massive structure weighs a minimum of 4.8 billion pounds. It is 1,243 miles long and over 186 miles deep. The US-based scientists that discovered the structure asserted that the abnormal structure was possibly made out of metal. The metal was likely made out of oxides from the crystallization of a magma ocean. Another theory is that the metal is probably from the core of asteroids. Or, it could also just be aliens. That's my guess. Just kidding. It's not actually. But what's strange to me, first of all, I'm going to look into this a little bit more. But it's strange to me that scientists are perplexed or they're shocked or surprised. And I know sometimes that's just a headline thing, but they really are sometimes. And you're like, but why? Your job is to like discover new things and challenge what you already know. Why are you surprised when that happens? Because I never am. I sit here and I browse YouTube or read articles or whatever it is, and that's like half of what I do with YouTube is either, well, okay, let's not say half, because a lot of it is watching Dark Side Phil stuff, but like detractor lolcow stuff. The other side of it is watching science videos and music for the most part. And I'm not ever surprised by this stuff. I'm just fascinated by it. It's really cool. Let's see if this will pull anything up. Is this even a new story? I mean, like, this was published a day ago, but like this, large mass discovered under moon's crater believed to be metal 4 years ago. Huge piece of metal buried inside the moon 7 months ago. Massive chunk of metal hiding in the moon a year. Like, what? This isn't new? I mean, I didn't know about it, but I guess it's new to me. Let's go here, see what it says.
We've been looking up at the moon for as long as there have been people to look. And because the natural satellite is tidally locked to Earth, it only ever shows the same face to us. And for a long time, we knew absolutely nothing about its so-called dark side. But its secrets have gradually been revealed over the last 50 years, and scientists probing the far side of the moon have recently discovered something new and unexpected. There's a chunk of metal buried deep beneath an even bigger crater, and they hope that studying it will help solve some of the outstanding mysteries around our solar system's formation. We first got a
certified
pre-owned
pre-owned news
side about 60 years ago, when various U.S. and Soviet probes returned the first images. These pictures revealed a huge crater near the South Pole, which is now known as the South Pole Aitken Basin. At about 2,500 kilometers across and 12 kilometers deep, it's the biggest and oldest crater we've found in the entire solar system. And scientists think that around 4 billion years ago, an asteroid about 170 kilometers wide impacted the moon, creating the crater. That impact would have been about 1,000 times more explosive than the asteroid that brought about the end of the dinosaurs. But its incredible size isn't the...
But birds are dinosaurs, supposedly.
only remarkable thing about the South Pole Aitken crater. There seems to be something surprising hidden beneath the surface. Modern surveys with new instruments and technologies have revealed the structure of the moon in unprecedented detail. For instance, the Lunar Orbiter Laser Altimeter, or LOLA, on board the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, has given us precise measurements of the moon's topography. And NASA's Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory, or GRAIL mission, has measured the strength of gravity all over the moon. Combining these two data sets revealed an incredibly high gravity reading in the floor of the South Pole Aitken Basin. And since extra gravity must come from extra mass, that means there's something huge and very dense hidden there under the surface. This mass concentration seems to extend several hundred kilometers beneath the lunar surface, and its density is closer to that of metal than rock. And there's a lot of it. Scientists estimate that it's about 5 times the size of the big island of Hawaii, amounting to about 3.5 million cubic kilometers of metal. What's more, the extra gravity is enough to pull down the middle of the South Pole Aitken crater by another 800 meters. Other than the dip, there's nothing else on the crater bottom to suggest what it is. But the lunar scientists from Baylor University in Texas have a couple of ideas.
I thought lunar scientists, I thought like scientists on the moon
core that collided with the moon to make the South Pole Aitken crater. The theory goes that a big enough asteroid would have been able to differentiate, which is when things like planets, or in this case an asteroid, melt and the stuff in them separates from one another, forming layers. Just like what happened to Earth back in the day. So when the asteroid impacted the moon, it shattered into bits of rock, but the metal core would have plowed through and into the moon's mantle, leaving a metallic core of iron and nickel surrounded by a rocky shell. And because the mantle was already partly solidified, it just kind of stuck there and stayed there to this day. There's another interpretation for this extra mass, which doesn't call for interplanetary ballistics. It's possible that the extra density comes from a concentration of heavy metal oxides, which form near the end of the mantle solidification.
I like heavy metal.
But these kinds of processes aren't very well understood. And the fact that the metal is right beneath the biggest known impact crater in the solar system is a big clue that the two are probably connected. Ultimately, impact sites like the South Pole Aitken Basin are important natural laboratories for understanding planetary formation processes. By studying this crater and the metal underneath, scientists hope to learn more about the cooling and solidification of the moon, the differentiation of asteroids, and the timing of collisions in the early solar system. For example, we still don't know exactly when the South Pole Aitken Basin formed. Getting a handle on that would help us date other events in the solar system, for which we currently only have relative ages from things like overlapping craters. So scientists are currently making a case for sample return missions to the far side of the moon. They won't be able to access the massive chunk of metal buried beneath the surface, but physical samples of the surface material would tell us a lot, like the state of the asteroid and the moon during the South Pole Aitken impact. Scientists can also pinpoint which radioactive elements got trapped within the melted rocks.
This is the kind of video I like, though. It's like to the point.
Combining these and other data will help
concise.
Researchers to figure out the true nature of the extra buried mass and decide whether it really is asteroid shrapnel or something else. So even as we look further afield to uncover the secrets of the cosmos, there are still plenty of mysteries to be solved in our own planetary neighborhood. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow Space. If you would like to help support the channel, check out patreon.com/.
Yeah, that's something I always have talked about too. Talking about sci-fi, you know, and space movies and series. I always thought, and which show was it? Oh, there's a series that's been out recently, and it's really good, like really good. But I always thought there should be more focus on our solar system in sci-fi. Like everybody loves like deep space and intergalactic travel and all this kind of stuff. Galaxy spanning empires, you know, that's all fun. But we had to start somewhere. And yes, The Expanse. I think I watched the first 2 or 3 seasons of it or something like that. And then I think Amazon bought it when Sci-Fi wasn't going to be able to continue it. But one of the things I loved with The Expanse was that it treated the solar system like a freaking galaxy. You know, there's a lot of space in our solar system. There's a lot of places to go, things to discover, places to hide. You know, I thought it was really cool that they had used the dwarf planet and the asteroid belt as a series. I think it is as a main location. But overall, I just kind of wish that sci-fi, that more people would go, you know, we can make the solar system big because it is. You know, it's already freaking insanely huge. We can't even grasp the scale of what our solar system is. So why is it so hard to set a story there? Like I said, it's always cool to be like, oh, we're going to jump from one star system to the next. We're going to use wormholes to go here. But you can have like multiple political entities, militaries, economies, you know, all these different things going on in just our solar system. And The Expanse showed that. So I do think it would be a really cool trend for more sci-fi to get on board with. Like, cut back a little bit on like the technology. Make it a little bit more technologically relatable, but you're still in space. You still have plenty to explore and do out there. It's like one of my favorite videos from that channel, SEA. I'm not gonna watch it right now, but one of my favorite videos from him is the Oort cloud, This was a good video. I think I watched it on stream. But it's not my favorite. Like, his channel is fantastic though. The best space videos on YouTube by far. But the one he did on the Oort cloud was really, really big for me. It was one of the early ones I saw from this channel. The Great Attractor is a fantastic one as well. But this video right here really kind of just gives you a little bit of a sense of the scope of everything. When I think he was doing the math, and like the Oort cloud it's kind of hypothetical in a lot of ways. But I think he was showing the math. It would be like traveling at the speed of light. It takes light like 18 months to go from the sun to outside the Oort cloud. What's up, Gen X? So like I don't think they really grasp the scope of space very much. And I think that more sci-fi could take advantage of that and scale down from, multiple civilizations across, half the galaxy or whatever, and be like, we could just kind of do that here in the backyard in familiar places, but present them in a way that people get the scale, because it's easy to present the solar system as like a small place in sci-fi. I mean, especially if you're talking like Star Trek or something like that, where they'll get across the solar system in like 5 minutes. Blade Runner is one of my favorite sci-fis ever. It's a standard bearer for sci-fi. But I think it's just too easy to act like you ignore like the solar system or star systems, where when you could really just tell whole universes worth of stories within our solar system when you think of the scale. Yeah, true. Like you can make anywhere seem unfathomably big. And like it kind of depends on like the perspective you're telling it from, I guess. If you're telling it from the perspective of this like one individual within, like in that case like LA, then LA suddenly seems like a universe. You make that individual feel and seem very small in comparison to everything else that's going on around them. Like they kind of disappear into it. And you can do that with everything else. If you're talking like Star Trek, they will jump around a star system or a solar system within a couple minutes, and that changes our perception of how big a star system is, how big the solar system is, going from one planet to the other, how long that takes. Well, that actually, with some of the fastest objects we've ever created, that often takes months or years in the real world, and these are insanely fast things we've put out into space. So, and then like, for instance, just like this subject here, the Oort cloud, which is like out way beyond our solar system. And we're talking beyond the Kuiper belt, which we've actually observed objects from. There's supposed to be this kind of spherical cloud that loosely orbits around our sun at almost a light year away. Or, at over a light year away. And so it would take to reach that point, they were saying 18 months to go from our sun to beyond the Oort cloud. 18 months at the speed of light. Space is pretty darn big. Which is why I can never understand the what's it called? I hate it. I really hate it. It's that one where like why haven't we come across aliens or whatever yet? Why do I always forget it? The Fermi paradox. I knew it would be here. I hate this thing because it's a search for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Space is really big. The end. That's the story. The Fermi paradox is like, well, if these things existed, why haven't we detected them yet? Yada yada yada. Like, are you kidding, right? Now, this is not SEA's, thing here, but I think it's funny that these two videos are right next to each other. The Fermi paradox. Are we really alone? And then you're like, size never ends. So, yeah. We honestly, despite all of our technology and detection capabilities and observations we make and everything, there really could be stuff out there in our solar system. We'd have no idea. So this idea that somehow, because we haven't observed it yet, or they haven't contacted us yet, or whatever, that, well, where are they? Do they even exist? Just really silly to me. And then on that subject, see you, Gen X. Thanks for stopping by. On that subject, of course, Avi Loeb, who is his name kind of came to notoriety possibly before, but I hadn't heard of him really until Oumuamua, or whatever it is, Oumuamua, whatever, the interstellar object that came through our solar system. And he became really popular or well known at that time because of the way he had studied it and what his viewpoint on was that it was potentially like artificial, like an alien craft of some sort. Because of the controversy there was that Oumuamua, when it went around the sun through our solar system, that it actually increased speed in a way that's not normally possible for like natural objects. So it's kind of suspicious. Anyways, from the Daily Mail, first ever alien object is recovered on Earth by Harvard's Avi Loeb. Now, of course, we're not talking about alien like, aliens, but as in something not from Earth, like not from our solar system, basically. So, physicists said fragments pulled from the ocean came from outside our solar system. They came from an object that crashed in the Pacific Ocean in 2014. And Avi Loeb spent 2 weeks searching for them in hopes of proving alien life. I remember when he actually went out to find these things, these little the debris from this thing, because I remember when this happened. Scientists claim they have recovered material that originated outside our solar system for the first time in history. Alien hunting Harvard physicist Professor Avi Loeb said early analysis of metal fragments his team recovered from the Pacific Ocean in June suggests they came from interstellar space. The remnants came from a meteor-like object that crashed off the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014, which Professor Loeb is not ruling out could have been fragments from an alien craft. Now, I don't know about that, but I agree with not ruling it out either way. The team found about 700 tiny metallic spheres during the expedition, and the 57 analyzed contained compositions that do not match any natural or man-made alloys. Now, maybe they'll say it in this, but more than likely they would be like, if it was like a meteor that came into the atmosphere and was like burning up, like these could potentially be like tiny little meteor rocks that were molten essentially and turned into spheres when they hit the ocean. Yeah, the Fermi paradox makes no sense at all. Like I said, it is a search for a solution to a problem that does not exist. It's a search for a solution trying to create a problem. It's really weird. It's really simple. Space is big. But the findings do not yet answer whether the spheres are artificial or natural in origin, which is the next question his research aims to answer. However, it says this is a historic discovery because it represents the first time that humans put their hand on materials from a large object that arrived to Earth from outside the solar system. There's the guy right there. This is his team doing their thing. The composition analysis of the spherules was performed by Stein Jacobson and his cosmochemistry laboratory team at Harvard University. So these are like legit people, you know? This is not the alien con people that got their doctorates off the internet. These are legitimate researchers, legitimate professors doing studies at legitimate laboratories. So that's cool. And not just jumping out to like, oh, these alien. When they say alien, what they're meaning is like they're not from the solar system, right? We have meteors and asteroids and stuff that hit the Earth all the time, but they're leftover debris from the formation of this solar system. So this is kind of cool because they believe these to be objects, like something that came into our solar system and then hit the Earth. The composition, okay, so Professor Loeb told DailyMail.com, I was thrilled when Stein Jacobson reported to me about it based on the results in his laboratory. Stein is a highly conservative and professional geochemist with a worldwide reputation. He had no bias or agenda whatsoever and expected to find familiar spherules with solar system composition. But the data showed something new, never reported in the scientific literature. Science is guided by evidence. See, this is the kind of stuff I like to hear. Professor Loeb also told DailyMail.com that future research would answer whether the fragments are simply part of a space rock or the debris of alien technology that's been floating through the cosmos for millennia. For now, we wanted to check whether the materials are from outside the solar system. The success of the expedition illustrates the value of taking risks in science, despite all odds, as an opportunity for discovering new knowledge. Loeb and his team published their study on the findings, which is yet to be peer-reviewed. Okay. It states the fragments, known as spherules, appeared to be nested, suggesting that liquid drops engulfed smaller ones that solidified earlier. And textures on surface of the round objects point to a rapid cooling. So yeah, here's some images. They're apparently rich in beryllium, lanthanum, and uranium, along with low content of elements with high affinity to iron, like rhenium. Pictured is the composition of a fragment found at the site. They use advanced technology to probe the inside of the tiny spheres, allowing them to see detailed patterns of the elements. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, that to me, that's actual science. They're going out and finding real, physical, tangible stuff. And then they want to find out what it is. Oh, this doesn't match the composition of stuff from our solar system that we have found in asteroids and meteors. And, you know, they've even found rocks on this planet that match the composition of Mars. And so it is believed that, of course, at some point, something hit Mars and ejected debris into the solar system, and then over time, some of that crap hit Earth. So we actually have bits of Mars on Earth. In this case, what they have found doesn't match anything that we've ever found from our solar system before. So, while these elements are found on Earth, Professor Loeb explained, the patterns do not match the alloys found on our planet, moon, Mars, or other natural meteorites in the solar system. So the pattern found in the spherules could have possibly originated from a highly differentiated planetary magma ocean. The document continues to explain that the element pattern differ from bodies in our solar system, including Earth's upper continental crust. Loeb theorizes that because the combination of blau has an overabundance of heavy elements, the fragments could have been ejected from novae, or neutron star mergers. That's interesting. However, the pattern is associated with the S process that suggests the debris originating from an independent origin, such as asymptotic giant branch stars. AGB stars are the final evolution stage of low and intermediate mass stars driven by nuclear burning. And then, of course, this is in 2017, an interstellar object named Oumuamua. I've actually listened to how this is pronounced, so I'm pretty sure I got that right. Passed through the solar system, and while most scientists believe it was a natural phenomenon, Loeb famously argued it may have been of alien origin. After the discovery of Oumuamua in 2017, Loeb theorized, despite much criticism, that more interstellar objects had likely whizzed past Earth. He was vindicated in 2019 when a student discovered that a high-speed fireball in 2014, the IM-1 meteor, also had interstellar origins, predating Oumuamua. So, pretty cool stuff. Because that would be pretty awesome to discover, like, yeah, stuff from outside our solar system does make its way here to the Earth. And that's probably been happening forever, you know? So the process of building the planet, of building the solar system, would not be like kind of like a self-contained thing. You know, there would be, on a small scale, but definitely some level of intrusion from the outside. But I just find those things fascinating. Sometimes when you sit back and think about them, like, that rock came from somewhere else in the galaxy. Because we usually think about these things as being in our solar system. Like, okay, an asteroid from the asteroid belt floating around, you know, or a comet from the Kuiper belt, or some other random chunks of stuff floating around. There's comets that, speaking of the Oort cloud, that are actually from way out there. Some of the, like, super long orbit comets that take thousands of years in some cases to make their way into the solar system and then get flung back out. They're believed to have come from the Oort cloud, which is, you know, like 1.5 light years from Earth, or from the sun. And essentially they will get disturbed by very minute gravitational changes from, like, other stars nearby passing by or something, and it can throw them in the direction of the sun. And then, of course, as they get closer, they're pulled more and more intensely. But this idea that stuff comes from, like, other star systems from elsewhere, stuff that could have, like, wandered the galaxy for millions of years and then randomly comes across our star. It's a pretty cool idea, I think. Either way, may call it there for the night. I think we spent like an hour just talking about Star Trek 4. Which is pretty cool. I'm down for that. So one thing that's kind of neat is, I don't know why I hadn't messed with it before, but I figured out, oh, I can attach like GIFs or images or whatever as sources in Stream Deck or Streamlabs, and I can use those for like reactions or whatever on screen. I just have them like preloaded up and click on it, and boom, there it is. So suddenly I'm like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. And if I get like a programmable keypad, I can go in and hotkey those things to that pad. So instead of having to go over here and like click on it to activate, I can literally just hit the button to react to something. And I can add sounds as well. So I don't know. I feel like these are things I should probably have already known, but I'm still only a few weeks into streaming and using things like Streamlabs and all this stuff. So I'm just kind of slowly but surely discovering all the cool little features I have that I can use and like improve the stream experience. I also think it's really cool that the chat names came in purple tonight, so it actually looks like everything matches. But anyways, I'm probably going to go ahead and call it there. It's almost 2 o'clock, and I feel like everybody's probably kind of tired. But I wanted to make sure I got the stream in since the storm didn't really affect anything. I thought it might be an issue. For a minute there, I was actually worried about losing power yesterday, or that it might happen. But then nothing happened. How dare you not be an expert overnight? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I feel like I'm pretty good with like the editing stuff. Like I haven't done a whole lot of like intricately produced videos, but I've created stuff for my videos. Like I've created animations, and I had to learn a lot of technical crap to start doing my videos the last couple of years. And so now the next step was streaming, and it's easier in the sense of just kind of turning it on and starting to talk. But if you want to like master it and get good at it, there's all these other little things to learn that are very different from how you handle editing. Because editing is like, you could sit there for hours and hours and days working on one little detail and learning it and figuring it out. With streaming, you need to be able to like control these things like all on the fly. So it's a very different experience if you want to make your stream experience better for people. So, and just more fun. Huge flooding 12 miles from me. Coworker's house underwater. Oh yeah, Citrus County got it really bad. Citrus County, Levy County, like anywhere over there, anywhere near the coast or near rivers or any of that kind of stuff is in really bad shape. But over here, it's not really a huge issue. We just got a little bit of wind and rain. I was surprised because my predictions, I'm usually pretty good at these things, and I did a stream Monday night talking about it. I kind of predicted that the storm was going to stay further west and offshore and was going to hit further up the state. And I was correct. It was still intense. It's still, for the people it did impact, it was really bad. But over here, I had a feeling it wasn't going to be that bad. But I was surprised that we didn't get like anything. Like at one point during the night, I was laying there just kind of listening. Okay, I was like, okay, there's rain. Now it's going to get bad, right? And then I checked the radar like an hour into it, and I was like, bro, it's already like passing us. It's all gone. I guess it was no big deal. I did all that work at the restaurant, pulling in everything off the patio yesterday for nothing, basically. But somebody who opens tomorrow gets to bring it all in, so hope they have fun. Sorry. Anyways, like I said, I'm probably going to go ahead and end things there and go chill and watch some YouTube and figure out a theme for Friday night, because Friday and Saturday night is when I will be back on. So if you're watching this as a video on demand, or if you join the stream at any point, make sure to check out Rival Indigo on Instagram and Threads as well. And then, of course, there's the Weekly Takes podcast every Sunday night. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday evenings at about midnight. So be sure to join us then. Until next time.